Hello everyone and welcome to episode 59 of Competitive Magic with the Carnies. I am your host, Andrea Mengucci from Italy, and with me, joining as always, we have Javier Dominguez from Spain.
Hello everyone.
And Anthony Lee from Australia.
Hola.
Oh hey, Anthony. Javier, actually, this weekend, we just met. It's been a while, we had dinner together, and we got to play our Power 9 in real life. Woo! It was a great experience for me. I bought these cards in 2019. I was so happy to finally get to play with them. And what about you? How often do you get to play Power 9?
Well, not very often.
Do you play
actually?
Locally?
Yeah, it's not very common that I just get to play them. Also, traveling to a big event because this tournament was kind of big and it's kind of important as far as vintage goes.
I was 125 players. The top 8 was winning that Mental Misstep, which was like $5,000 card. So yeah, definitely a high stake vintage event that happens once a year. I guess it happens 3 times a year if you want to travel to North America, Europe, and Japan. But yeah, I think you're not gonna go, right?
No, definitely not.
Yeah. We just went. We had our one shot. Unfortunately, we missed. I finished in the 16th place over here with my goalless shops, where you played Tinker and. Did you finish the tournament?
No, I actually went 3-2 and dropped. I was extremely tired. Saturday was a very long day for me for different reasons. And I was like, I'm going to drop and just go to the hotel rushing to maybe play the mugs or just take a nap. I ended missing the mugs for like 10 seconds. So I was like, probably it's for good. So it's
I thought it's a win since the mugs was 10 rounds of...
Yeah, I was just so tired. I probably should have ended the tournament. If I knew I would miss the mugs, I would play the rest onto the tournament. But it was like, let's just run and actually run there. But it was not enough. And
yeah. What about Saturday though? You finished the tournament. On Saturday was the Legacy main event with 714 players, 10 rounds of Swiss, and I believe you finished it all.
Yeah, I actually did because I was like doing well at some point. I think it was 6-1. Or something like this, and then I lost maybe 7-1. I don't remember exactly, but I was like doing well.
Yeah.
I think it was 7-1 and lost the rest. I'm not sure, but I was doing well. And at some point you're there after 8 rounds, and you're like, might as well just end the whole thing,
right?
And it was a good it was a good deck.
Yeah.
The format is good. I think Legacy, the gameplay was very diverse, and different decks. I actually like Legacy and Vintage right now. So Vintage is vintage, and as we said last week, like it's more vintage than it has ever been, and you just have to accept. Like I just got turn 1 killed like 4 times in 5. Like it just happens, Like just sometimes I'll do it turn 1 with counter backup or whatever, and the combo decks are very good. It's fine if you accept this and you don't take it too serious. I actually think vintage is cool. The games are actually very interesting, and it's easy to make a mistake that costs you the game. Like it seems like it's gonna be easy to play, but it's not. Like the mulligan decisions, turn 1, you play Flash Storm or not, or whatever. Like, it's actually hard to play, and I think it's very interesting. I enjoyed. I tested a little bit for the tournament, and it was a good process for me. It was fun. Maybe we can do this in the future again, Mango.
Oh, yeah, I'm for sure playing every tournament weekend in Europe for the time. And I've played, like, this is my 4th tournament weekend already, so I definitely enjoy playing vintage here and there. Also, gotta shout out the clean cut. Like, how often do you get to play a large event with no draws? Anthony, this is probably the only tournament that got like 7 rounds no draws. Like, not even. Strange. I guess there's one. It's not strange because it's the fastest format in the world.
It's vintage, Anthony.
If you draw, there must be some slow play reasons because it is so impossible to take a draw in this format. And yeah, so clean cut at 6-1 with our friend Rodman finishing in 8th place. And it was a good event again. The vibes were chill.
There's one more thing. Yeah, like it was actually very good because Saturday was a mess because it's a lot of people, so rounds are very slow. Classic as like GP. I joked going there. It was like, wow, this is like when we went to GPs in 2014. I didn't know how right I was, but like other than that, it's like on Sunday, remember Mengu? Like the rounds were 1 hour. Like 1 hour since just the next round starts. Like was 11, round 2 was up. Like you knew the round would last like 1 hour max because everyone was just done before or whatever. And that's what was his move. Right? That's an upside.
Yeah, Legacy. In Legacy, there was a lot of draws into concessions because with X11, you wouldn't make top 8 because it was so large that you actually needed like 9-1. 2 people made it X11, but like, you know, it's very unlikely. So it was, yeah, it's not great that such a large event can't be split in 2 days. I really wish it was split in 2 days. I don't think they are missing very much, and the prestige of a 2-day tournament is much, much higher than a single-day tournament. Regardless of that, we gotta shout out the winner, which is Jujubin Julian Jakubowicz on Timur Delver. He's been playing this deck for a month on Magic Online without hiding very much information, and he played the same list on the weekend, and he lost 1 match, going the whole 12-1 in the tournament. I also got a shout out that in both events, the eventual winner was the one that finished first and was Swiss. Kind of showing to you that being on the play is a massive deal in these older formats, and yeah, probably should be implemented in Magic Online too at some point, since it is a very important rule in the Magic the Gathering game, and it's not the same as Magic Online, which is kind of weird.
Well, do we know why is that?
I don't know.
Like,
it's not really a rule of Magic the Gathering. It's a rule of tournaments, right? It's not. I mean, it's
no, but
not
do
like
we know? But do we know if Magic Online doesn't do it? Like, is there a reason, or
I think it just can't. I believe it's a technical reason.
They don't want to. Yeah,
Fair
they don't
enough.
want to implement something that says the player begins. I don't know, but it was good. I think that the metagame of Legacy is super wide. There's no clear winner. So yeah, player knowledge of the deck is the beast. And you went with Grixis Delver. Is there some reason? Did you like this deck over 4-color more?
Not really. I mean, I talked a little bit with Wiki, and I just didn't feel the 4-color deck was very good. And also, like, you actually told me, like, you said here in the podcast that 10 rounds with a control deck will be, like, very draining. And I think that's true. And for me, what you said to me here was the breaker. Like, I was like, yeah, Mango is right. Like, 10 rounds of control is going to be like a nightmare. Like, it's going to be very tiring. I'm going to need 3 days to recover from that. And I actually want to enjoy my time on Sunday. So I went for Delver, which I did not test much before. So I just copied one deck list and went for it. I asked Baku from Barcelona a little bit for help. And that's it. I just didn't try too much on Legacy. I really wanted to well in the vintage one, but yeah, that was still fine. It's Delver.
For color control, aka Urapile is there's like 1 in 18 place in the first page, so it wasn't even, I don't know, like long tournament.
I think these 4-color decks, 4-color control decks, are just not good in long tournaments. You know, that's.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You took my words out of my mouth. That's exactly what I meant. But the only undefeated player in the tournament was Timur Cascade, which actually ran all the way to the final, losing to Jujubin, Timur Rhinos. He went 8-0, 8-0, was able to double draw into the final with Rhinos. Whoa.
Rhinos in all formats.
Wow, we're really seeing
this
these
is a perfect
cascade
segment.
Decks, like cascade across all the formats. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's do it. So let's seg into Modern, shall we?
Yes.
Yeah.
Do you have something else to say, Javier, about this weekend?
Actually, yeah, like the tournament was... I want to talk about the tournament a little bit because it was my first Eternal weekend, and I actually don't know if all the tournaments are like this, like all the Eternal weekends, because it was my first one. I actually told you there. Like, I didn't really expect that. Obviously, one thing is like the opponents, they were very good vibes in a way where, just made the whole thing very pleasant. Like, I mean, when you're playing, trying to win, but there was, I think you can agree, Mango, here, where like, especially in Vintage with the most days, the vibe was like this, just, like this, like, we're here to have a great time vibes, right? And that's just like, I don't know, it was good. But I also had some struggles in the tournament. Like, we couldn't play by car on Saturday, or Sunday or whatever. That was very annoying because I didn't know it. Like, for Sunday, I knew it, so I actually went to groceries and was ready. but not being able to pay by card things was annoying. I did not, plan this in advance, so I didn't have the currency from in Prague, and it was very bad. I'm also not very good at asking people for things. Like I should have done that. Maybe ask some local, you can just maybe buy some water or food or whatever. But not being able to buy things with card there was very annoying for me. It definitely made my day much worse. My whole mood on Sunday when I had food and drink was a whole different thing. And I don't know if you felt like this, but there was a little space in the tournament, especially day 2, where we were playing Vintage. Like I think it was round 2 or 3. It was like on the highest tables because I think it was 2-0. I just got a little bit late there, and I just couldn't even put the playmat straight because there was no space for my full playmat. Like I had to put the corner behind, like below the neighbors. That was very bad for me. Like I think it is a tournament that the vibes are great and the prizes are great, so it had everything to be very good. But those things that can be taken care of, like some of the things were very well taken care of. Like there was this person's, like you could just leave the jacket. Mm-hmm. There was this jacket place, like this jacket wardrobe or whatever his name. Like that's the kind of thing that actually improved the quality, right? So some of them were actually taken care of. Yeah, it was free actually. Yeah, but it could be like €1 or whatever, It was good. These kind of things are actually good for tournament, like, but others were not very. That for me, space is very important. I don't know if like other players feel like this, but it's like very annoying when you can just not put your elbow right because you're cracking with the elbow from the neighbor. It's very messy to play like this. So I actually didn't like it at all. But other than that,
that is definitely true. I guess you are a bigger person than me, so you feel this problem more than me. I felt like I don't know. I felt like it was. I guess I'm too used to just be uncomfortable in Magic tournaments. It's actually the opposite. When I have space, I'm like, wow, this is so much space. I can put my life pod near the playmat. Like to me, if I can ever do that, then I have so much space. Like, because I'm so used to just have my playmat. Like, you need the playmat because you need to define your, like, your territory. I don't know how can you
space.
Say that. But yeah that's true. That's true for sure.
I didn't think of that. You're right. Like you're smaller, so you probably like because one round I was like next to like another big man, and we were like, wow, this is tight, But that's I mean, that's true. That is an upside. Like, if you're playing a tournament like this, for Sunday, I'm sure being small was actually better than being like a big guy.
Yeah, it's like how you always complain about the airplane seats, and I'm like, I don't know, it seems totally fine to me. In fact, I think
exactly. Well, it was the airplane effect,
Or the bed. Like, people always complain about the bed, and I never do.
Oh, that happens a lot as well. Yeah, like Javier would be like, these beds were unacceptably small, and I was like, what are you talking about? These are fantastic.
Yeah. Or the shower. No, there's definitely a lot of different problems. But I guess, German and Czech people, there's a lot of Germans. And
that's true, yeah. But also, I mean, I remember playing against, I think it's Saturday, I played I think it was Tom Booker or something, I don't know, around 8-7. Like, I played against an opponent who was like, I asked, like, how's the day going? And he's like, well, there's some good things and some bad things, but I choose to pick up the good things, so I'm in a good mood. Like, we are having even more fun,
Good vibes.
And I found that actually very wise. He was like, there's some bad things here that could be better, but they're also like, people are great and formats are great and we're having fun. So I just elect to actually do this. And I was like, well, man, you are so right. Like, this is wisdom. I felt like this guy knows what he's talking about. And it actually improved my mood from the rest of the day because I was like, feeling bad. I was hungry, whatever. And it was like, well, you got some point here. So
shout out to that guy.
I think that is I think that is as much wisdom as Anthony figuring out that the control decks did not do well in a 10 rounds event, whereas maybe in the side event they were all doing well the day before.
Exactly the same
story. But let's go to a format where that happened as well. That is the Modern Showcase, where, well, you name it, for color control didn't do well in this 10 rounds event. Yeah, but
it's only like the 7th week in a row,
Yeah, you know what did well? Rakdos Gap? No, actually, not even. Like, there's 2 in the top 8, 6 in the top 32. That is 18% of the top 8, which I'm gonna assume it's less than the number of scam that register in the event. So maybe that not an amazing weekend. Okay, but like, nobody obviously tweeted that because we don't say good things about metagame, only bad things. But look at this. The first place, the one that went undefeated in the Swiss. It's not actually the player that converted to the win. So there's 2 Teamer Rhinos in the top 4. They all went like X1 in the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
They were both playing Tishana's Tidebinder. This is a new card. I got to play with this card the week before on Magic Online in actually Merfolk and Blue-Red. And this card was amazing for me. It's a 3 mana, 3/2 that stifles an ability and cancels it for the rest of the turn, which is huge. Because what happens is, today I got to play against Amulet Titan, and I was able to stifle an Amulet of Vigor just entirely. Like, the card doesn't have text anymore, and also, like, they have no removal spell.
It's for the rest of the game, right? Mengu?
Yeah.
You said for the rest of the turn? It's the rest of the game, right? I cannot really well
yeah,
here.
Sorry.
But... Okay.
Sorry. I meant, I said turn, but I meant game. And also, you can also stifle the Fog trigger from the One Ring. Sure, they draw a card in response, but then they don't get to use the ring anymore. Or you can stifle Primeval Titan. Like, all these 3 modes happen today. I got to beat 2 Rhinos. And so what happens to the Urza Saga is interesting, and I think I should say it because on stream often people ask me about it. So you can stifle the ability of Urza Saga to make construct, so the second chapter.
Wait, why can't you stifle the first one?
I think it still taps for mana if you stifle the first one.
Why will it?
Why?
Though. Like, you can wasteland in response to a trigger, right? So you can stifle the trigger then.
Okay, maybe that is true. Maybe I just trust my Twitch chat about that. But anyway, let's say what I'm sure it does.
Twitch chat has never been wrong. So.
If you Tishana's Tidebinder a construct, they will still be able to get the ability, because Tishana's Tidebinder says if an ability of an artifact, creature, or planeswalker is countered this way, it loses all the abilities. So it doesn't stifle the Urza Saga. Although, if you stifle the second chapter of Saga, then they will never be able to make construct, because, on the third chapter, it dies and it doesn't have that ability to make a construct again. So that is what happens in that interaction. But this card is definitely super cool. Does a lot of things.
So if you stifle the mana, it will never make mana, right? Because it will go to chapter 2 straight.
Maybe that is true.
Yeah.
That makes sense. I've been told that it still has mana, but it doesn't make any sense. I agree with you. Yeah. Anyway, in Rhinos, this card is great because you actually hold up mana a lot for Outburst, for Subtlety, for Force of Negation, for Flame of Honor. Also, it's a wizard. So you get to do the 2 modes with Flame of Honor. Again, as I said the other time, I stifled the Oblivion Stone, I stifled the Karn Minus, or Explosives. This card does very many things, and I think it's going to make Rhinos even better than before. Rhinos is good because it has a slightly above 50% win rate against Scam.
Is it really only slightly?
Although this card is not great
against Rhinos, I don't know.
Well, Scam, this Tishana's card actually seems great. You don't like it that much on the surface, but what you're saying does make sense, and I can see why this card is great in the Shell game. But specifically in the Scam, it doesn't look very good. So it's probably one of the situations where,
Although post-sideboard, Scam brings in Explosives and Chalice, and this card is good against both. Although obviously dies to removal.
Yeah, but game 1, it doesn't do much, right? Game 1, if you do 2 of these, you lost. Okay, no, it's kind of funny because this is a card that makes this deck better, but ironically makes it less good at the reason for the deck being good. So I will see how how it affects it.
You still have interesting applications with this against Scam, against Undying Evil. So, for example, if they try to Undying Evil their thing, the creature dies, and then you can stifle the ability for it to come back. Or you can stifle a Fable trigger, like the first one, for example, a fetch land. There are applications everywhere. It's so rare that you're going to sideboard this card out or be like, this card does nothing in the matchup.
Well, this card is by definition a card that it's virtually never going to do anything. There's always going to be trigger abilities somewhere. It's a stifle, right?
We had this conversation before. Just because a card can legally do something doesn't mean that it's actually going to be.
Doesn't mean it's good. I'm pretty sure this card makes the matchup against Scam Wars game 1, right? That's kind of...
but for example, against Blue-Red Murktide, I think you can actually side this card out because, you're only stifling a fetch land.
Well, these explosives also, though, right?
Explosives. Yeah, exactly. Explosives. Yeah. But against Scam, the fact that you stifle the Undying effect, that is, I think, sometimes it's worth the card. This is what I meant. Even if it dies, you still counter the Undying Malice abilities. I always call it a different way. One day one day
Sure.
one day I'll call it a single way.
Well,
But
at
yeah,
least
no,
we're
anyway,
not calling it Stifle Merfolk.
I'm super high on this card. I think it's great, and I think it's gonna see a lot of see a lot of play modern. Yeah, there's another deck that did amazingly in this showcase challenge, which again was like this 500 people tournament, was Amulet. There was 3 copies of Amulet, and then in the next challenge, 2 finalists, first and second was Amulet. So yeah, Amulet of Vigor is definitely doing great, mostly because it loses to Scam, but it's pretty good against the rest in theory.
Is it good against Rhinos? Like, it's supposed to be bad against Rhinos against Scam, right? So maybe it's just the deck being great. Like, if it's bad against Scam and against Rhinos, and the most played decks are Rhinos and Scam, and Amulet still does well, that speaks
sign.
of the power of the deck, doesn't it?
Yes, it does.
I'm gonna say that Rhinos wasn't too popular. Like, it was 2 in the top 8, but I'm not gonna say last weekend was popular. Maybe this weekend is gonna be popular. Today in a challenge, I played against 3 Rhinos, so Rhinos is definitely on the rise from like this week on. But we're looking at the old results of last weekend, so maybe the metagame wasn't still like so much into Rhinos, and especially Rhinos with Tishana's Tidebinder, which is insane against Amulet because he has no removal spell. So
Yeah, that card just destroys your Titan. Like, I don't know, it just seems like a nightmare matchup.
yeah, there's the new card that Amulet Titan is playing, which is a Spelunking. I've seen list in the main deck, I've seen list in the sideboard, and Spelunking is a way for you to put a land into play untapped that isn't like that doesn't die necessarily to a removal spell. So for example, if your opponent like kills your Amulet, then you're not down a card because obviously it's a 1-for-1, but Spelunking, it's like an explore effect that also does the Amulet of Vigor thing. So this is maybe why people are playing it post sideboard, because it's good against the Force of Vigor decks, I'm assuming. But again, I don't have that much knowledge into Amulet to explain why people are now trying this card.
Yeah, I could see it being good in fair games. Sure.
Yeah, you probably just nailed it, actually.
Yeah, so Spelunking is a 3-mana enchantment that when it comes into play, you put an extra land, and if it's a cave, you gain 4 life, and the lands you control enter the battlefield untapped. I've seen some people saying that Spelunking turn off your deck, but that's not actually how it works. If you have Amulet of Vigors, 2 Amulets of Vigor, and 1 Spelunking in play, when you play Arsenic Grove Chamber, you can choose which replacement effect to put
Amulet
on
of
the
Vigor is not a replacement
effect.
I don't think that's correct. I believe that's how it works on Magic Online, but I don't think this is correct. Like, how is that a replacement effect? Literally, it's just whenever, like, Amulet triggers, right? So
well, maybe the permanent is gonna come into play tab before it sees the Spelunking.
Because Spelunking is a replacement effect, so it entering tab just doesn't happen. Like,
okay. I mean, I actually don't know how this works. I've never had these 2 cards.
Today, I played against this deck on Magic Online, and if they had both Spelunking and Amulet in play, and my opponent chose to put the 2 Amulets of Vigor in play,
I believe that's
to get
I think that's a bug.
of it.
That it shouldn't work that way. I'm quite sure of this.
Okay.
All right, we're about to learn something for next episode. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure someone will tell us for sure.
To ask that.
Yeah.
They will probably, as usual, just tell us that I'm right. But
hashtag MTG rules. I think there's hope for the non-Antonio fans here. Maybe he is wrong.
Yeah.
He's not very commonly wrong, though, but there's hope for them.
If you are a judge and you wanna interact with us on Twitter, you can tag me and say, "Oh, the rule of Magic Online is wrong. If you have 2 Amulets of Vigor and 1 Spelunking in play and play Simic Grove Chamber, it comes into play untapped. You don't trigger your Amulet of Vigor." So yeah.
I want to add something. If Anthony's actually wrong, you can tag him. That's funnier.
That seems reasonable.
Yes. Add MTG banned card. Yeah, that's let's make an exception.
And if Mango is wrong, you can tag him, right? That's fair.
Yeah, but they always tag Mango, so it's good.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yes,
I'm safe.
And in a sea of awful matchups, I don't know how Zerk manages to do it. He went 10-0 in the Swiss with Yawgmoth.
Oh my god.
Yawgmoth notably bad against Team of Rhinos, Rakdos Scam, and I think it's bad against Yawgmoth too. Sorry,
Amulet. Yeah, it's like mono bad
too?
matchups. Just shared winning matches.
I don't know. Yeah, he still did.
He's very good at this deck. But wow,
he is a master of the deck, but that's like at some point it's like an uphill battle. Like every matchup is like bad.
Yeah, then we see.
I suspect also Tishana's not being particularly bad against Yamath as well. So.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Like.
There is Javier. I want to know your opinion on this deck. This deck came 13. It's monogreen Tron. It doesn't play any sphere or star, and it's playing 4 Generous Ent, 4 Karn Liberated, 2 Eugene the Spirit Dragon, 4 Explore. This is the I haven't seen a monogreen Tron wild list as this one. And again, it came 13th in the showcase. I went 8-2. So that's a pretty good record. And I definitely play this deck on stream in the next days.
Well, I'm gonna concede something. Like this version is the best Tron you could ever build to be decent against Amulet, because the Generous End is something like was on the table. Like Generous End enables Force of Vigor, right?
Yes, and this deck is playing 3 Force of Vigor.
Yeah, so this is how important. What I see here is this person was like, all right, my deck needs Force of Vigor to compete. So how do I make a Tron deck that's able to feed Force of Vigor? And this is the answer. Like this player's answer is this, and I think actually makes sense. I still think though you can just cut Ugin the Unplayable Dragon for 2 stars or something, because stars actually good with Explorer anyway. Or
no. There's 0 Vermcoil engine in the 75.
Yeah, you have Generous End. It's so much better.
Yeah, it's this, but the thing is, you can turn 3 Generous End if you have a star. So I will still play some stars here, like 1 or 2 probably at least, over like 2 of the big cards. I think it has too many big cards. Like it also doesn't have Ulamog, which I think is not correct.
Oh wow, it doesn't have Ulamog.
Yeah, but I think so. I don't really agree with what's going on here, but I actually think this is reasonably well thought. So that's my answer. Like I think this person might be into something. I think this deck can be built better. Like I don't really like the details, but I think the idea might be the best way for Tron going forward. Like if I was playing a tournament with if I will play a tournament with Tron now, I will definitely give this a try, because I might probably not like it a lot, but there's an easy chance I actually learn something from this, and I can use this in other Tron decks as well. And also know how much I can stretch the shell on the Force of Vigor camp as well. So I mean, good job, Ardos.
Yeah, wow. Also, there isn't Cityscape Leveler in the sideboard, which is a card that I often grab. A lot.
That's a detail. Yeah,
a lot of innovations definitely in this list. And again, this is a cool tournament. Like this is definitely a tournament to check out if you're interested in competitive modern. There's Creativity today by Spider Space, which is the person that kind of brought back 5-color creativity in the first place. There's the first 4-color deck, which is the Up the Beanstalk by Bullwinkle, which is notably the person that made the new Rhinos that we see now with Mystical Dispute and No Furies. But, somehow not playing Rhinos now that is supposed to be very good. So it is always interesting to see, how players think about a format.
Mm-hmm.
All right, shall we move to Pioneer, which is probably the biggest deal of the week?
Yeah, I mean, it's been quite a week for Magic, right? Like, definitely.
Yes, so much happened.
All right, we should go to Pioneer.
Great. I don't know. Yeah. It's like...
So what would you play this weekend if you had the tournament with Modern? Rhinos?
What would I play if I had a tournament with Modern Rhinos?
Yeah.
In Modern.
Is it a short or long play
as well?
Yeah, so if it's a long tournament, I don't play for caller. If it's a short one, I might consider it. But regardless of that, I want to try Tishana's Tidebinder. Why did I say Wayfinder? Anyway, I want to try Tishana's Tidebinder. I think I want to play Blue-Red Murktide with Tishana. I think that, once again, Blue-Red Murktide is nowhere to be seen, and that's the perfect time to play it. I like the card, and I think it fits the strategy well. And I still need to think about the list, obviously. Like, as always, the question of, like, what would you play would require some testing, whereas I'm just kind of playing leagues with decks that I net deck. But from what I've seen, Tishana is great, and I want to play with her, or it. How do you say, Anthony? It or her?
I don't know. I mean, I usually just use it to refer to cards in general, because I think of the cards as cards. But,
okay.
Not in Spanish.
All right. Yeah. What about you, Javier? Would you play Entron?
No, I will actually play Rhinos, and I will, blame you or thank you if I play against Mortite with Tishanas, depending on if I win or lose the match.
Oh, Tishana counters Cascade. We haven't mentioned it yet, but it does.
Yeah,
so you have more counters against Living End now.
Maybe I will blame you then.
Isn't like... Yeah, Living End isn't...
I will play Rhinos. Like, it seems like a very well-rounded deck. Like, it's good against a Scam, which is already, like, a very high bar to beat, and the deck is just, like... I mean, what beats Rhinos? Like, 4-color is one of the best decks against Rhinos, and it's like play with less. Tron. I guess I don't know. I just don't know what beats Rhinos as much. Tron beats Tron, but Tron
used to be Tron.
But Tron is like nowhere. Like it's not very not very played. And also Tishana's
Tishan, I think might change that honestly.
True,
like it might.
Well, I don't think it's gonna change it to the point where Rhinos is like favored, but definitely like enough for the matchup to be just fine. Yeah, and
I had a play pattern that couldn't happen in the past, where you play Blood Moon and usually you like kind of ignore Blood Moon because you resolve Oblivion Stone and then you crack it on 5 mana, but actually on 5 mana I had Tishana, so I was able to tap out for Blood Moon, play something, and then add Tishana on turn 5, which was a play pattern that I did, and I didn't have Force of Negation, but I still had an answer to it. So that was another avenue that Tishana gave, which was super cool.
Yeah, so for me, Rhinos for sure. Like, I just see the deck and I say like, okay, this deck has not like an obvious hole for the weekend. And even matchups like Living and Tishana makes it better. So that will be definitely my pick for the weekend. Like, clearly, I will play Rhinos.
Yeah. All right. There was another thing to talk about last weekend that happened, is that Javier played the semifinals and then the finals of the Modern Super League, beating Canister on Amulet. And then losing to Corey in the mirror match. As always, you had to guess what your opponent were playing, and you guessed it right for the second time in a row, right? Because you guessed Nathan was on Scam. You guessed that Canister was on Amulet, so that's why you played. Is this the first time you played Scam in the whole Super League?
It's actually a thing. The first time I have played Scam in my life, other than like a few testing houses, like testing house games. Yeah, I just never played Scam before. I was like, I just like, well, I mean, it's just the right deck to play. I don't know how to play that much, but it's the right deck to play, so let's go for it. I played the league just to warm up a little bit, and that's it. Yeah.
Yeah, that was cool. And and then you lost in the final to Corey. I watched your semifinals against Canister. That was quite the game, honestly. You lost the first one, then the game 3 seemed like you could never lose, and then you draw 12 bricks in a row, and Canister was able to draw Basic Forest into Dryad into Dismember, and it was almost going back, and you finally drew one spell after the longest series of bricks.
It was quite a game, yeah. I mean, if I lose that game, at least it's a great show. And yeah, I lost the finals to Corey. It was a mirror. He's an expert on the deck. It was a very close games, to be fair. But it was in the final. It was good. I actually enjoyed this process a lot. Like, the semis finals were also very fun, and I wanted to win it all, but I still I definitely leave the league with a great memory. Like, I'm gonna remember this league as something that I enjoyed a lot, and that's something good for this kind of events. I think if players are commenting and playing, if the players are having fun, you can tell. When you see them just talking about the games or whatever. So it was good.
Yep. Okay. Let's move into Pioneer. This is definitely the talk of the week. So let me kind of explain what happened in the weekend. So this new mechanic that we've talked about in the previous episode, it is the Discover mechanic. I'm trying to read the card Quintorius Cand, which is this Planeswalker that at it comes to play for 5 mana on 4 loyalty, -3, Discover 4, which means reveal the top of the deck until you find a 4 or less mana card and put it on the stack. So Quintorius says, whenever you play a spell from the exile, it drains you 2 life. So what you do with Quintorius is you -3, you flip through the deck, your only targets available are Clever Impersonator or Spark Double, which are clones that actually, Spark Double, you get to keep both Quintorius Cand because it removes the legendary effect, whereas Clever Impersonator is just a copy. So let's say you hit Spark Double first, you get an additional copy of Quintorius Cand, and while you cast the Spark Double, you deal 2 damage because you're casting it from the exile. And then You continue doing that, and you just kill your opponent on the spot, and you've played a card that costs 5 mana, 1-card combo. You play Mana Ramp, like Beanstalk Giant, Greater Tanuki, and Herd Migration, and you play interactions like Trumpeting Carnosaur, Leyline Binding, Virtue of Persistence. And yeah, this deck went first in the Swiss, first in the tournament by Yuki Chikawa, multiple times Pro Tour Pater, also Mox champion, actually. So yeah, it was pretty cool to see. And the finalist was another Discover deck by JMM, Pro Tour champion. So two world-class player finishing in the final of this Pioneer Showcase. This is a different take on the Discover combo. That's using another card. This is an uncommon. It's Geological Appraiser, which is a 4-mana 3/2 that when it comes into play, if you cast it, you discover 3. So what happens is that you discover 3 and your hits are only Glasspool Mimic, which copies the Geological Appraiser, and since it's an ATB, you keep the chain going, and finally you get Eldritch Evolution. You can sacrifice the Appraiser and you go get Trumpeting Carnosaur, and you keep this going until you have enough board state that you get Doomscar Titan, 6 mana 4/4. When it comes into play, your creatures get +1/+0 and haste, and you attack. And instead of ramping with the other ramp spell in this deck, you have to ramp with Creative Outburst, Magma Opus, and Elemental Masterpiece. And this is my explanation. I hope you guys enjoyed it.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good one, right? How do you feel about this, Anthony, about the format? Or we shall talk about what the deck do first.
Yeah, let's start with what the decks do, I suppose. It seems like an important baseline.
Well, there's two decks, right? Like the first one is basically casting Quintorius as a 5-mana win the game card. But also that, like also the Trumpeting Carnosaur, aka the new Carney, it's actually also a 6-mana win the game, right? The idea is we have 8 cards that are like I win the game. That's a shortcut.
Yes.
And the other one does the same with a 4 and a 6. Because if you cast the 4, you actually in the game. Yes, this means the deck has a bunch of combinations of turn 3 kill. We'll talk about this later, but like that's basically what they do. These decks do the same, but one is like way better at interacting, and the other one has basically one of the kill cards cost 4 instead of 5. I think that would be the easiest way to sum it up.
I think only the JMM version can kill on turn 3.
Correct.
The Quintorus can only kill on turn 4.
That is correct. Yes. Yeah, so JMM has like a 4-mana kill and a 6-mana kill, and Ichikawa has the 5-mana kill, 6-mana kill. But the one has like Virtue, which is Leyline Binding. It's more like a functional mid-range deck, whereas the JM one is more like, a traditional combo deck where it's like faster, but also more of a glass cannon. If you want to talk like this, like if you had 8 cards against this deck, for example, the JM deck will be way worse, because if you look at the deck list, if they, let's say they play like against, a Grafitious Cage, for example, well, then they will have an issue, right? Whereas the other deck can actually just answer pretty much everything, because it can just play a fair game with like bindings, virtues. Like you can even win the game with like the virtues. Like there's a lot of things that I can do. Even Beanstalk Giant is like an acceptable B plan if they're playing 8 cards, right? You just play a 7/7. So there are different approaches to the same Cascade combo deck. Discover combo deck, Anthony, and and yeah, I mean, obviously the logic says the one with Quintorius should be better in the long run because it's the one that's better against Skate. But the fact that presumably the JM1 should be better in the mirror matches because it's faster, maybe just turns thing around. I don't know how you guys feel about this.
I don't know if JMM's version is actually better in the mirror, because I think Ichikawa's version is probably better at interact. Like you can be faster, but they only have to have binding to stop you, right?
Well, but they have to have binding.
They can have consign as well. So, for example, something that can happen. It's also like slightly risky because the Clever Impersonator is actually a problem. So something that actually happened was JMM went for the combo, the trigger got stifled, the Carnosaur trigger got stifled, and then Ichikawa played a Clever Impersonator, copied his opponent's Carnosaur and killed them. Like,
wow, that's
actually
great,
like a real thing.
Yeah, when you say stifle, we're talking about repudiate or replicate. Yes, that's a great.
That's a different thing, though.
Target ability.
Yeah, because that's the Chicago, like Tio's deck being actually like having a force off for specifically the mirror match. That's how good he thought the deck was.
Well, it's best for the mirror, but it's not only for the mirror, because like the card is just kind of functional as in general, I think. something.
Well, but you will play the crab, I think, right? You will play the mirror shell crab or whatever.
Yeah, the crab is probably better in general. Yeah.
No. Yeah.
Yeah.
So something that I'll note that's funny about Repudiate Replicate is that normally you can't play 5-mana cards, because you would hit them. But the other side of Repudiate Replicate is actually a clone as well. So it actually does still.
Oh wow!
It still works perfectly well. In the combo. It's
insane.
very.
So if you play Trumpeting Carnosaur, you hit this. You just choose Replicate on Trumpeting Carnosaur.
Yes.
And you flip again.
It's pretty great.
Wow. Yeah. So basically, this is like Mississippi River in Legacy into Pioneer, which is like 1-card combo. Your deck functions in a way where if it's left unchecked, it's gonna not statistically kill you, because there is like a situation of draws where you can't kill your opponent, right? Like if you draw too many clones.
Well, not the Quintori's one is. Yeah, I think Quintori's one. If you don't have like two, yeah, it's very hard to not. I played some games in Arena just to see what's up with the deck, so I can understand it more. It's not very easy to not kill the opponent. Like it's actually very hard. Like very, very hard.
There are some with Eldritch Evolution versions. It is possible that you end up drawing too many and then hitting them in the wrong order. And you can't kill them immediately, but it's extremely unlikely. Like it's extremely very, very, very unlikely that you would not be able to win the game.
Yeah.
And for example, that's why we have the Galta, because like if you have drawn the Doomscar Titan, then you can upgrade a Carnosaur into Galta using Eldritch Evolution and then put the Titan into play from your hand, for example. So that's why that's there, by the way. That might not have been immediately obvious.
Yeah, so I played a little bit more with this one, and my impression was like being able to kill on turn 3 has a lot of implications on the other deck it doesn't. Particularly, like the opponents cannot deploy pressure before you actually turn to kill them. That's the Splinter Twin effect, right? Like, yes. But Splinter Twin costs 4. This is like, I've been playing games, I'm on the play, and I play 2 lands and pass, and if they tap out for like a Harvester, they're dead.
Well, yeah, the way I would...
that's a lot of pressure.
The thing I would compare it to is this is just like a way more consistent and powerful Greasefang deck. Because, sometimes you fear to tap out on turn 2 because they might go end step salvage, untap Greasefang, and then you're basically dead. But this does it way more consistently because you don't need to hope that your Grizzly Salvage high rolls and throws a Parhelion in the graveyard. They just need to have drawn the Appraiser and have one of their many treasure generators, and then they have that.
Yeah.
And then that's how. And then it becomes difficult to play against this deck because you don't want to tap out in case you just die, but then they can actually progress what they're doing by they make enough treasures to start setting up some bigger plays. So. Treasures or lands from Ichikawa's case, I should clarify. So yeah, there is some Splinter Twin situation, and like the decks are trying to exploit that, right? Like it's not just about immediately comboing your opponent as quickly as you can, because that's it is certainly very interruptible if you're just going all in on the combo. The decks are good because they can threaten the combo and then try to do something else at the same time. I think that's very important.
Yeah, and also like. We should point out that the rest of the top 8, it is all interactive deck. It's like 3 Izzet Phoenix, 2 Rakdos deck, and I guess the 1 Boros Convoke where I guess whoever, I don't know, is faster wins, but like the other decks were all interactive deck. So saying that this deck loses to interaction like I've heard a lot, it's just, yeah, it did not happen in the tournament. I'm sure that they played against a lot of Izzet Phoenix, which is a super popular deck on Pioneer. There was, again, 3 in the top 8, and they didn't make it to the final. So I would say that overall, this deck is able to fight through 8. Again, I didn't have the chance to play this decks yet, but the result of this past weekend are pretty big deal. And this weekend, I know there is a regional championship in Canada. I'm not sure which is the city, but like I know there is a regional championship in Canada. So next
Toronto,
episode will...
Tokyo, and I'm sorry, I think there's one in South America, but I don't know where it is.
Oh wow, I didn't know that. Okay, so there's 3 RC. So next episode is gonna be, we're definitely gonna look at a lot of those results and tell you like if this is like because like obviously now everyone's ban talking as always, right? And we now have just one tournament where the deck was even unknown. So obviously. There's no need to ban talk right now, but the next week we're gonna have some like meaningful results from important events, right?
Yeah, I think it's really exciting. Of course, Ichikawa was talking a lot about the implications of this for those RCs because I mean he's Japanese though, and his audience is Japanese, and the Japanese RC is next weekend, so there was a lot of interest in that in particular. It will be really exciting. Obviously, there's a lot of hype and concern. That's normal. It'll be interesting to see. I do think I do want to say that it seems like Ichikawa has really thought about the things in his deck. I listened to him explain a lot of the card choices behind his deck, and yeah, I'm certain that he has he put a lot of work into this. I think a lot of other versions of the Discover combos are they're very new, right? I mean, the set has been out not even a week really by the time of this tournament, but so most of this are just not very refined. Like I know JMM said that he would have changed some things in retrospect. He would change them going forward, but I think Ichikawa has put far more work into it than anyone else.
Yeah, I think that the craziest part of JMM list is that he's playing Zalfrin Void when Crystal Grotto is legal. I think that is the sign that he, his list is, I believe he tweeted something like, I just decked this right before the tournament and haven't played a single game with it.
Sure.
I don't even know where that deck is from, but this is like, I guess, the internet hype. And also, I guess it's cool to mention that in the same weekend, there was an historic qualifier on Magic Arena. Historic is like the Eternal of Magic Arena, and this deck with some extra card that isn't legal in Pioneer top 8, won the thing, like went 7-0 in day 2, getting the all the invites. And
the qualifier weekend.
This archetype. Yeah, this archetype is doing all the similar things
over
I will
note that
Magic
the player
Arena
who 14-0'd the qualifier weekend, also a strong Japanese player. Sautry, I think it is. I think that's the username. But the Japanese players were really on top of the Discover combos this weekend. And, well, the Japanese have always been very good. The Japanese Magic community has always been very good at working out these like sweet combo decks.
Yeah, it's MTG Gru on Twitter.
Oh, yeah, I think that is Sautry.
There is a card called Pantlaza Sunflavor, which is a commander card that's only legal on Magic Arena. That is an extra
right, it's more redundancy.
More redundancy to give the deck more consistency. So again, it's all about combo Pioneer right now, and it's kind of exciting to me, seeing it from the outside. It isn't just a mono green. I mean, it's not just Pioneer like we've always seen it in these months, but it's just something completely new. And seeing it from the outside is fun. I don't know how fun it is to play with or against this deck, but
it's more interesting than you would think. Like I've been playing a lot playing and watching a lot the last couple of days, and I don't know. I mean, obviously it's a deck that can have very free wins sometimes, but you get some interesting games because of that tension between wanting to develop and not wanting to expose yourself to a possible combo, trying to figure out like what exactly their plan is. Especially playing as Ichikawa's version is really interesting. I played against a different Japanese pro who was playing that deck, and I really enjoyed our games. So, yeah, I mean, the gameplay doesn't seem horrible.
It's also worth mentioning that this cover isn't like you put the card in your hand. So if your opponent like kills your thing, I don't know how much that relevant is, but you can.
Sure, it's relevant. Why wouldn't it be?
You still get card advantage.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I don't know how much you gain from having a Elder Solution in your hand. But.
Well, you can gain by having the Mimic in your hand, which is a big deal because it can be a land to play the Carnosaur, for example.
Oh, a Mimic. Oh, okay, sure.
Yeah. You put a Cascade card, the Discover card, they kill it, you flip the Mimic, and then you have a land in your hand, which is actually good, Like, I think...
Yeah.
I think it's good. I do feel like the Splinter Twin pattern is better with the GM deck, where it's like, creature removal is good, so you have this tension or whatever. That's actually not that true for the Gintorius one.
Yes.
Like, if you're playing more traditional decks like Phoenix or whatever, you will not be able to interact with 5 Planeswalkers just killing you. You're just gonna die. So it's definitely trickier. And, well, the big question here, this is week 1. It seems like this is at least going to be tier 1 easily for Pioneer, right?
Sure.
How do you guys think this is real? Like this deck is going to be a tier 1? Do you guys think that this is going to be banned in 2 months or what?
Yeah. I think that the immediate thing that I would think if I had to play the RC is my deck, like let's say I have put, let's say I'm a Lotus Field Master or a Rakdos Sacrifice Master. Now I have to think, okay, so how does my deck do against a turn 4 consistent kill? Like, this would be the questions I ask, right?
What? I mean, there are questions to ask. Why would... I mean, if they kill... no deck is good against a turn 4 kill, but that's all... I just don't think that's a question.
Yeah, you cannot raise this deck. It's also like Legend Binding Virtue Persistence. You will never raise this deck.
Like, the questions I would ask,
for example, if...
just more generic ones, like, like, how do I attack this deck? Or what do I expect people to do with this deck? How do I expect people to
Spirits probably should be good against this, right?
Yeah. This is what I meant was, if I play, let's say, Gracefang or Boros Heroic, or even Boros Convoke, well, you can just play, like, 4 Silence, or, I don't know, there must be some cards like Silence or Dumping Sphere, like, all these cards are just very good against this deck. So, for example, Rakdos Sacrifice from Jabberwocky, I remember used to play 3 Dumping Sphere and maybe go up to 4. Or, something like this. Is this enough? You know what I mean? This was the thing that I was saying. Like,
well, it's not Damping Spear, I'll tell you that. It's not very good.
Does Damping Spear not stop the deck?
No, it doesn't really work. I mean, in theory, yes, but it doesn't really play out that way because
it doesn't look like Damping Spear. I mean, it doesn't look like a Sphere will beat this deck.
But
like, if I have a Sphere in play and you play Quintorius and you -3, you can't play a clone.
Well, but then right? you don't -3. Like,
okay, so you make a token. Okay,
yeah, like the deck is a very functional deck. I see. Like, also you have like 7 mana, you can still do something. Like, I don't think this is gonna fall to, like, this is not allowed to feel where Sphere actually, like, so the hosters against combo, they can actually host your kill or host your development. When hosters host your kill, they're way worse because you can actually do your thing. And imagine you're playing Voros, right? And you play Sphere and 2 creatures, and they kill the 2 creatures. Then you have the Sphere, but you will not win the game. That's different to Lotus.
If I was playing Convoke, I would not play Damping. I would not have Damping Sphere in if it costs 0 mana. Like, I think it hurts you more than it hurts. It's more likely to make you lose the game.
Yeah, no, I meant Sacrifice. Yeah. I think Convoke can play Silence, for example.
But still, like, sure. Those are cards that attack their kill. Like, those cards only can, like... Look at this deck. Like, you can lose a fair game against this deck. It's not that hard. And that's a big issue, I feel, for the hate cards. That's why I think this deck is actually better than the other one. Like, ideally, you will need a card that's like Sphere is against Lotus, where you also cast the card and they will not function very well. I mean, obviously, like a Blood Moon, Like, I'm saying Blood Moon, obviously Blood Moon's not legal, but like a Blood Moon will be good because of that reason. I mean, not against this one.
Yeah.
That's a kind of combo
card. What you mean.
Yeah, but Blood Moon against Amulet is a great card because they cannot do their thing. They cannot tool around with the Blood Moon in the battlefield.
Yeah, so I put that question in the perspective of, a competitor of an RC of this weekend that has tested a lot their deck, ready to go, and then boom, 1 week before, the metagame completely changes. Like, what are their steps, given they don't have, like, infinite time to, or card availability to change to this deck? Like,
okay.
Like, how, like, yeah.
Well, alright, let's not... Alright, well, I mean, usually I prefer not to factor very heavily card availability into tournaments, but that's because Javier and I are often preparing for very much top-level events and concerned about very top-level opponents, which is not going to be true for every RC, so especially on short notice, so maybe card availability is something that we can acknowledge as an issue in this specific context. The first thing I would say to every RC competitor that is in this conundrum, and I mean, it is a conundrum. Maybe some people enjoy the challenge. Maybe some people are in terrible disarray. It depends on how you approach tournaments, I suppose. But first thing to remember is that everybody else is in the same boat as you. So I think that's a very important thing in terms of guiding what you're going to do and what can realistically happen, right? Like, if you think it's basically impossible for you to find the cards and you're really stressed out about that, really hard for a lot of other people as well, right? So, and also remember, everyone else wants to react to the same thing that you do. Think about that as well. I think that's the most important thing for me in terms of processing this news, and talking about that in general and not, specific to this deck or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of questions. If I was playing the RC, so the first question is like, obviously, well, the first question is Anthony said, like, can I actually play this deck or not? But then it's like, well, how much do I like my deck? Because if you are like, if I was like, I'm a Phoenix expert, by all means, I will actually just play Phoenix. Like, you can just play some cards that are good against this deck, but I don't think this is as good. Like, this is not a Hogak. And if it is, it's going to take a while. And also, it's like kind of tricky to play. Like, if you play a mirror match of this deck, it's not very easy to do so, whatever. Like, and you're going to have, like, a lot of interaction that's hard because you don't know which hate pieces you will face. So you will have not, you'll have no experience. So it's going to be hard to play this deck. But if you play your deck very well and you're an expert, by all means, I will stick with it. I will play a little bit against these or put some hate cards, try to find the best ones. But on the other side, if I'm like, playing the RC, I'm like not a big fan of either deck or whatever. Like, I might be like, yeah, I might play just Phoenix, but just because I don't like anything else. Well, maybe this opens two opportunities. One, you could play this deck, or two, you could jump into a deck you think is great against this, which they must exist. Like, I assume Spirits has to be good, but there's surely like all the decks are good against this. So that's an opportunity to be like, well, I don't like any deck, so I might as well just play one that I think beats the best, just in case. But keep in mind, Anthony said this, like, the card availability is an issue. Like, it's very bad if you change this and then you don't play ever against this deck. So, I will default to, I play a deck very well, just put some hate cards there. If you know your deck very well, you know which are the luxury slots. So you know what you can cut from your deck to put a card that's, narrow. But I will not go a long way. Like, probably will not make many changes in the main deck or whatever, if I play like a Mono Green or Phoenix decks or whatever. That's how I feel about this. If I play this specific weekend,
Yeah, like, I think it's ultimately about opportunity cost, right? I think that's an easy way to frame it. Like, just look at what you're giving up by potentially changing this. If you're an expert in your deck, then, you are giving up quite a lot to play a deck that you will, honestly probably not play very well because it's an unusual deck and you won't have the time to invest a lot into learning the deck before you need to go to your RC. But, if you think, I don't know what I'm going to play, there's like 4 different decks, they all suck, which is, quite often the case in Pioneer, then, then maybe
by all means,
not so bad, right? Like,
I think, this was exactly what I wanted to ask you guys, and I think this is a good answer. Like, if you are so invested in an archetype, then you should continue to play that and, fix it the way you think. But if you are super undecided, then this might be a good deck, because we are really talking about, like, this deck is extremely, extremely good. This is not the, Boros Convoke that was in May, I think. When, like, everyone freaked out of Night Errant of Eos in Boros Convoke at some point in Pioneer.
But how do we know?
I think this is, but...
Well, it's feelings. Like, it's just subjective, right?
Yeah, exactly. I think in feelings... Like, when I remember when I saw that post of that historic, 7, I was like, oh, what's this list doing? And then I realized it. I was like, what? I remember talking to you guys. I'm like, whoa, this is genius. This guy came up with, like, this super cool deck. And then you guys, oh, no, that's a known deck. I'm like, what? How is it a known deck? And, like, nobody mentioned it yet. And this seems so cool.
Well, the historic one is even better because the historic one has the 4-mana kill and the 5-mana kill. So it has like 4-mana kill, 5-mana kill, 6-mana kill. So that's a lot of kill cards. That's a lot of kill. No, you can play against counter spells and you'll be like, there's a kill card. There's another. There's another.
I was reading that deck list. I was like, what? Like, what is this? Like, this is literally better than Mississippi River in Legacy. And it was.
So there's one thing. So for me, the feelings, in terms of feelings, I have not played that much. It's but like, while traveling on the iPad or whatever, that's all I played. But I'm getting vibes similar to the One Switch Initiative in terms of like power level or whatever.
Whoa.
The Initiative Ones in Legacy.
What, sorry? What? Okay, Mono White Initiative in Legacy. Okay,
yeah, I get the same kind of vibes where I feel like this deck, even if like I could be wrong, but I feel like this is gonna be extremely good. Probably beatable by certain decks or certain strategies, but it can easily. I could see this deck easily soft banning half of the metagame in Pioneer, and if that happens, well, that will be an issue. But I will have to play with this different version. But the other one, I mean, it just feels like very good, but obviously weak to hate. So combat decks are very tricky to evaluate. but we'll see. It's definitely
right, because we don't want to
situation.
Right, we don't want to evaluate it based on the first weekend it came out, because that's the weekend where people aren't prepared, and naturally this is the kind of deck that benefits a lot from that, right? Let's see.
Exactly. But it's just like the nature of some of the cards are just so flexible. Like the Carney is like, right, the 6 mana win the game,
that card is
but also it's like a three mana removal that's not counterable. Wow, like that's good. Like the power level of this Carney is like, I mean, obviously it's breaking the format, right? In a way.
Yeah, this card is like a main deck removal spell and enabler for a combo. I don't think you have that many combo deck that are their combo pieces also.
Like like this is one of the best combo enablers ever. Like it's
combo enablers.
Like it's it's a combo enabler that kills Thalia in a way where they cannot protect Thalia or Archon of Emeria, whatever. Like that's
Deceiver Exarch.
Like but it's a deceiver that can actually kill a creature, and that's just I don't know. I think for me the surprise is like how strong this card is on that regard. And I mean, if the deck ends being too good because of, it will be because of this card. I think like it's just like too good in terms of like not too good by itself, but it's 6 mana win the game / removal that cannot be countered, and also happen to kill most of the hate cards in the format. That's a lot of text. That's a lot of like. I mean, this is I agree with Mengucci. This is not a combo. I never said like combo was like they should probably ban this or not. I don't think they should ban anything by all means, but I would not be surprised if they eventually I
think we're on the same page. We see a lot more potential in this.
Yeah. What do you think, guys, are like the very good matchup of this deck? Like I'm thinking about mono green. Like this deck is very good against mono green, and this deck is very good against the Lotus Field combo. Would you guys agree with these statements?
Very good might be strong. I don't know about very good. It's probably like...
I mean, the GM probably yes, but the Triosk one actually, is it even ahead game 1 against Lotus?
Because I'm thinking that this deck is very... I guess you're not consistently killing on turn 4, whereas with the JMM you are.
Exactly. Like I think JM1 is like... It's much better against so many decks.
Turn 4.
Yeah, exactly. It's tricky to evaluate.
Yeah, the JMM is, we say consistently killing on turn 4 because you have 10 enablers that ramp you 2 mana, so that you can, even if you don't draw the Upraiser, you can still win with Carnosaur on turn 4. Whereas the other one needs to draw Quintoruscant. Like if it doesn't draw Quintoruscant, I guess Carnosaur also can kill on turn 4.
Yeah, but it's harder to... No, because...
Oh, no, you can't on turn 4.
Yeah, you cannot kill on turn 4. It's hard. Like,
because you ramp on 3.
It's, Yeah. It's about, like, for me, it's like, just flip the question. Like, which decks are actually good against this deck? Like, which deck do you think naturally had, like, over 50%?
I would have said that Phoenix was good against these decks, but...
No, Phoenix is bad against combo. Phoenix is pretty weak against combo.
Yeah, but this combo... I guess the JMM relies on a creature, so Phoenix has like all the shocks in the world and the Lava Axe, so you can just proceed your game plan, leave 1 mana up, and interact.
And what if they play a Carnosaur that's not 6
true.
toughness?
Yeah, it's only good that this is only true for the 4 mana one, but also means like you cannot tap out for like a Shredder. Like if you're in the draw, you cannot play a Shredder in turn 2, and that's like very like that's huge if you think about it. And then if you play the Carnosaur 1, you cannot interrupt it with removal, and then you're toast. Like they play the Carney, you die. Like I think they need removal. And Phoenix, I will expect Phoenix to be like considerably behind game 1 all day. Like just
okay, that's very interesting.
Like definitely Rakdos also. Like they have a lot of redundancy, so it's not like Rakdos. Also, Rakdos falls apart if you kill the creatures, and this option is not very good. Mono-green definitely is lower. Like which decks are good against these? That's the issue. Like there's no predator for this deck at this point.
Maybe like
so
spirits or like
saying,
blue-white control.
You said spirits.
Maybe spirits, maybe blue-white control.
You can put like a lot of hate bears in humans. Like you can put the Magistrate, Archon of Emeria, Thalia.
Those all die to stuff. Like
obviously that
like Bedeck.
Yeah, I know that they die, but like if you play a lot of them, someone. Like no, I understand. I'm just trying to come up with questions that I would ask myself if I have the tournament this weekend, and this is the
humans can be probably good. I think humans can be good against this. Like I'm sure there's enough hate bear humans. Like obviously Carnosaur is great about killing some, but like if you have enough that are good, like I think Thalia 3 mana.
It also doesn't kill Eidolon of Rhetoric, by the way.
There's a lot. Yes. Yeah, there's a lot of cards that are good. Like they exist.
Also,
in the format.
You have the Dauntless Bodyguard can give it indestructible so that it doesn't die to I guess it still dies to Binding and to Virtue of Persistence. So.
But if you play Thalia into Archon into, something else...
If you just have enough of them, like you just slam enough of them.
Yeah.
And you also just don't give them time. Like the problem with like Black-Red Sack playing hate cards is that you'd play a Damping Sphere and then you like start dealing them 2 damage every turn and they're like, that's fine, But with humans, it's like, you need to answer this now and combo now or I kill you, right? So like you need to have pressure plus hate. That's a formula that is very persistent in Magic against this type of combo deck. That playing hate cards and slow decks is often insufficient.
I believe Cloud UH lost the winning in. He was 8-1, losing the last round. He was playing blue-white control. Javier mentioned this. Use Dovin's Veto, make disappear, change the equation. All this card works against both combo pieces. So, this could be good. Of course, like blue-white control is tough. They even have Cavern of Souls now, so some other decks might just...
Who's going to play Cavern of Souls?
Like, I don't know.
Humans.
No, I mean the spirits and humans that we just mentioned.
Yeah, it's already a horrible matchup,
Exactly. I think this is going to be an interesting situation,
For sure. So this is why I said I was excited on Monday to see the Shaken Pioneer, because as much as players that as an event this weekend, some players that have an event this weekend would hate to be there. Some other people would love to be there because the competitive Magic is often about the deck building, right? Like choosing the right deck for the tournament.
Okay, so what's the bet? Will next week, will it be ruled by the combo decks or not? What do you guys think?
What is ruled?
It's hard.
I go the opposite of what Anthony says, just to have a.
I mean that happens naturally anyway, but. Well, I mean, I did want to push back a little on, like, I don't know, when you say a lot about deck building, I mean, it depends. I mean, I wouldn't want to isolate that. But moving on from that, will it be ruled by combo decks? I think they'll do well. I don't think they'll do overwhelmingly well. I could be wrong, but I think they'll do well.
I think we might see, I don't know, a correction a little bit. Like, I think we might see, like, a lot of hate, like, maybe too much hate. If that's a thing.
An excessive amount, it's very possible.
We might see this. We've seen this in Lotus Online, right? Where Lotus was very good and then all the decks were like Force Spheres or whatever in the next NTO challenge.
It was
we might see a little bit of
swings and roundabouts. Yeah.
Like if you put enough Damping Spheres or whatever, well, I mean, if you put enough of them, a deck will be able to be fine against this one, I assume. But I'm actually, looking forward to it. Like I'm excited to know it, to see. I agree with Mango. This is magic,
It's exciting. I don't know. We haven't had excitement in Pioneer for a while. Like, I didn't dislike it as much as a lot of people did, but I do agree that Pioneer was very stable for a very long time, and well, I didn't expect this much change. Right? It's it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. I mean, we were like,
cool.
It's one set. How much can it change? Because we were thinking about the US RC to come, and I was like. Things can't change that much with one set in Pioneer, right? Well, that was
yeah.
That was wrong.
Wrong.
When I mentioned the deck building, by the way, Anthony, what I meant was metagaming. I used the wrong word. I think the very interesting thing of competitive Magic is often metagaming.
Okay, then I think that I don't agree with that.
Okay.
Yeah. Classic.
Sure.
All right.
Let's move on to Standard, where you, Anthony, actually decided to play a Magical Line event this weekend.
It's the first Standard challenge I ever played.
Top 8! Yay!
Yeah, and we're on the way to the top 8. We see here MTG Bentocardo, and you actually lost the top 8, but that's still super cool. And let's just talk a little bit of your deck. It's, again, if you're watching on YouTube, it's here on screen. And just talk about us a little bit about that.
Okay, well, we talked a little bit about dinosaurs before, like when I first sketched out an idea for the deck, and the main thing there was that I thought, I saw a lot of ramp lists, and I thought those don't look very good to me because they look like worse versions of Domain, but I like a lot of these dinosaurs cards, so what can I do with them? I figured they all seem to skew aggressively to me. That's the thing that makes me interested in playing the deck, that I can play lots of efficient creatures and very efficient removal, because the dinosaurs being large in general just naturally means you can play Bushwhack in your deck. So now we have Bushwhack, and Triumphant Chomp is really efficient removal. And we also have Itzquinth, Firstborn of Gishath, which is... It kind of like lets you like fit more removal into your deck, right? Because it's like an acceptable 2-drop. And then also gives you a Chupacabra later. So yeah, I felt that the deck had a lot of like natural synergy in that way. So I was interested in building with it, and decided to play in the Standard Challenge for fun because I don't know, I've been enjoying playing Standard a lot. It was at a horrible time for me. Like it started like after I would
10 p.m. or something.
It was horrible, yeah. But like it was fun, and I decided to do it anyway. And after round 4, I was like, oh, I'm falling asleep. This is not great. But it was fun enough to do anyway. It was also really interesting. Like unusually for Standard in general, I played against a lot of different decks. Like the first 6 rounds, I played against 6 different decks, right? So that was cool. They're all interactive decks. This deck is, this deck is not the interactive one. Like if you look at all the decks in the top 8, they all play like pretty. They mostly play interactive games, but this is really like the how do you say? It's kind of the epitome of the trope of I just play creatures and turn them sideways, which I think is usually irritatingly reductive.
It's a good rule.
Yeah, I don't like it when people say that usually, because I think it's like usually not correct and it's often reductive. But I genuinely feel that way about this deck. Like it really is just you play creatures and then sometimes you play a 1-mana removal spell and then play a slightly like not as big creature. So yeah, the deck was quite good. I did a lot of things incorrectly because I hadn't played any games with the deck before entering the challenge. So I will have an updated list out very shortly that I'm sure Mengu will link to. But the main things were that I felt that the Huntsman's Redemption wasn't a great fit for the deck. It was a little too slow, and I didn't have enough fodder to sacrifice for it. I played it because I thought it would be cool to have access to be able to search for Voldaren Thrillseeker or Pugnacious Hammerskull and go over the top of people, but it's just too slow and a bit too disruptible, so it wasn't very good. Scytheclaw Raptor is a card that people were pretty excited about, and I thought didn't look particularly good to me, but then when I played it, I was like, oh, okay, I was wrong. This card is actually quite good. And in particular, what it does well is it plays very well with haste creatures, right? That's a pretty nice synergy because your opponent naturally needs to play instant speed removal spells to stop the haste creatures from dealing damage, but if you have a Scytheclaw Raptor, well, they're taking the damage no matter what. So
4 damage is a lot of damage.
It's a lot of damage, yeah. It's like pretty tough for some decks. Like, the Hammerskull is probably just the best creature in the deck. Like, this card is just part of all your best draws. I just want to draw it in every opening hand, and usually I want to draw lots of them in the game as well. Like, it just turns on all your other cards, right? Like Bushwhack, Triumphant Chomp, Itzquinth, Belligerent Yearling. All those cards are so powerful when you have a Hammerskull in your draw that I think that the Hammerskull is the reason I think this deck is good. Like, that's the real payoff for being a dinosaur deck. Like, the other cards are decent, but, like, this card is like, whoa, because this kind of deck normally kind of sucks in Standard, right? Like, all of the linear theme decks are usually not very good. Because in Standard you have to play... Like, every deck has to play interaction, right? That's just how Standard works, because the pool of threats is usually not deep enough to avoid playing, like, the best removal spells instead of, like, the nth best threat. So every deck interacts, and that makes it harder to execute, like, a linear plan. So... a deck has to be, like, actually very powerful for that to be the case. And, I mean, this deck is just set constructed, really. Like, I just played, like, all cards from the new set plus Rampaging Raptor, which is, from March of the Machine, but,
It's a time-shifted card, yeah.
Yeah, it's like, it's probably from Ixalli flavorfully. So, yeah, I would recommend
it is actually, it might be, right?
I think it is, yeah, because that was a set they did a bunch of, like, cards themed from other things. Yeah, I would probably update the deck to include... I would cut the Hunter's Redemption and Voldaren Thrillseeker, and I would add maybe like another Hatcher, another 2-drop ideally, and maybe another Scytheclaw Raptor. I want to fit Monstrous Rage in the deck because I think that would have like a lot of synergy with the Hammerskull and the Scytheclaw Raptor. So again, just trying to find ways that the Raptor can punish your opponent for taking what they would need to handle your threats like haste creatures and Monstrous Rage. So yeah, I don't know. This deck was simple to play, and so if you're looking for something that's not difficult, it's good. I think it's a reasonably powerful deck. I have a lot more to see still.
Is it recommended then for the weekend?
For the weekend? Oh, I don't know, but I'm just thinking about people are probably looking for different decks to play in the upcoming RCQ seasons, right? So I think if you're looking for a deck specifically that isn't too difficult, or like if you just like decks like this, then I think this is a good choice. And whether it's a good choice in general, then I think I would want to wait and see where we've developed the deck. Because of course this is like week 1, so like, I don't know, like, I'm very reluctant. I mean, I was reluctant to say, to make a strong decision about how good the Discover deck was, so like I'm not gonna, I'm even less willing to make a strong statement.
No, but sometimes you're like, wow, this is good enough for Standard. Like,
No, yeah, I think probably it is. It's good enough for Standard, but I mean the bar for what's good in Standard is lower, right? Like, Yeah. I think it was a solid deck.
The updated version. Did you already post an updated version somewhere?
I mean, I sent it to you. I thought that we would. Yeah, we'll post it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. No, I wanted to ask because I saw that you posted a list on the Patreon Discord in the standard, in the starter section of the Patreon Discord. So I was wondering if that was your updated one.
All right. I updated it again after that.
Yeah, I wanted to do the bridge with the patreon.com/carnies and where Anthony has posted. I believe you posted it even while you were doing the top 8, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, when you play decks like this, you have a lot of time. Like I went like turn 1 Mana Dork, turn 2 Hammerskull, turn 3 Rampaging Raptor. I was like, well, I have some time to post in the Discord now. Like I don't know, like the game finishes in 9 minutes.
The rest,
especially if it's like 5 a.m. You know, so.
Lots of other sweet decks.
The rest of the top 8 has the rest of the top 8 has a lot of Subterranean Schooner. This is a new card that is in most of the other list, and the first place, the Manland, I believe, finished undefeated in the Swiss and won the tournament. He was playing they were playing Esper list, I believe, Esper Legends with Rafine, and there's a couple of new cards which are worth shouting out. One is Subterranean Schooner, 1 in a blue, vehicle 3/4, crew 1. When it attacks, you tap a target creature that crewed it this turn, explore. So you can crew it with a token or whatever, and that one is gonna explore. And this is a 3/4 for 2 mana. And another new card is the Deep Cavern Bat. This is the 2 mana 1/1 flying lifelink that looks at the opponent hand, exiles a card until this is in play. So this is disruption plus can crew the schooner. I believe that is kinda it for new cards. I guess I see a get lost.
Right,
but otherwise this is. Yeah.
Those cards were a huge deal. There's also the Creature Land, which is a big, like that card was quite good. But
Restless Anchorage.
Yes, Restless Anchorage. But yeah, I think I would like those cards are both way better than they look. Like I had thought that Deep Cavern Bat into Rafine would be pretty powerful, but it was like extremely impressive when I played against him. But obviously, like it's better against like my deck because I don't have as much removal that I want to play on turn 3. But this card just looked great, and like it seemed great in theory. And yeah, like it's just an excellent way to curve into Rafine. Something that I think is like super important about Subterranean Schooner and Deep Cavern Bat is that they are both very good against the Domain deck. And that is a deck that was like pretty solid against a lot of these Esper decks. And you'll notice there's not very much Domain in this challenge that did well. So
yeah, there's 0 in the top 8.
Right. So I think these were pretty big upgrades for Esper, I think. So Schooner is just like a generally like kind of a good card, but it also really gives you some insurance against Sunfall, right? I think that's a huge deal. It's like particularly good to like try to pump it up with your Rafine or whatever, so that when they Sunfall you, it's just like having a creature land. You just play another creature, bash them with a big boat. Yeah, I think I was very surprised. I thought those cards were decent, but they still overperformed.
Yeah, so I guess Schooner doesn't curve very well into Wedding Announcement.
I mean, that's awkward, yeah, but
like you just do nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I'm just thinking about a curve that this deck might have. But yeah,
Sure.
Schooner into Rafine, I guess it's good. But
It can
Schooner
be,
into
yeah.
Announcement is not so good, yeah.
Well,
it's also a deck that benefits us having different cards.
Yes.
Like having different situational cards. So Schooner is one more of those. That's probably
Yeah, you don't
fine.
wanna play
also
too many of
good
them, I
addition with the Virtue.
Yeah.
it's good.
Yeah, there's only a couple of them in these Esper lists.
Well, the blue-white list is different, I think.
No one plays more
the
than
blue-white
2.
one has 4, but
Yeah, this one is definitely a different deck. The blue-white that's even playing Spyglass Siren, the 1 mana 1/1 common.
The Blue Inspector.
Yeah, wow.
You can never say if it's a common or uncommon. Yeah.
It's uncommon.
Yeah, it's uncommon. You have to read now at the bottom left to see if it's a
Well,
common.
sometimes
or
you're like they couldn't print that one in common, right? It'd just be so messed up. in
Oh,
draft.
you never know. You never know.
Okay.
You're making.
This deck was
They're
sweet as
making
well.
very powerful
Yeah.
cards. Yeah, there's it's standard, so it always gets a lot of new cards, a lot of new decks, right?
Yep. The one that I saw the most of was this new red white humans deck, which was very successful in
Yeah,
the
I
other
saw that
challenge as
Mogged
well.
it.
I think it's 7th place. Yeah, by Mogged, yeah, 8th place. Yeah, this deck was very impressive as well. Like the Cavern was actually quite helpful for this. Just as a mana fixer, and the version that I played against had
crazy.
Onium as well, which was like a redundant copy of Adeline. they're trying to do different things, I suppose. But there was definitely some new decks just using Cavern as a mana fixer that are generally aggressive strategies because they need the untapped land more. So there's a lot to do there as well. Like I think Arnim Pakal was quite impressive for me as well. Like I didn't answer it, and it's like Rebel Master really takes over the game very quickly.
It's crazy how like you can play 12 untapped land of a splash color. I guess 14 even Mirrex. We used to play much worse mana base, and now you can just play 14. To splash Imodin's Recruiter.
Yeah, I think that's a thing that's going to be true for bigger standard now, right? Like the mana bases are going to be better in general, which can't complain.
That's true. Yeah, that's true. Yep. Okay. Do you think we're good to wrap up?
Yeah, I think we are. We covered a little bit of all the formats. So, I mean, this weekend there's some mocks that I might play or not.
What is it?
There's mock Showcase Challenge, right? Maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah, but what format?
I think it's Standard and Legacy. I want to say.
Standard, let's go.
Yeah, you want to play it, Anthony?
No, I have a sealed tournament that I got to play.
Whoa, the best format. Yeah, I don't know if I will play or not. I have to check if I have enough QPs. I think I might actually not have them. But yeah, I'll probably do because I didn't play the mocks on Sunday. So I might just play the Legacy one. I will probably, play some of those. What about you guys? I mean, sealed, but what about Mengu?
Yeah, I'm gonna go to Bologna to play a pre-modern nationals today. On Saturday. That is a format I get to play for fun with some of my friends, and there's the nationals, not nationals, and I'll go there. There's apparently over 100 people, so I'll be playing elves in pre-modern.
All right, that's probably the best deck as far as I understand.
I don't know about that. There's a lot of hate whenever I get to play Cyber Game and then I win, but this is what they say. And
you played the best deck,
weekend. Yeah, this weekend in Prague there was also the pre-modern tournament there, which was like 150 people too. So
yeah, honestly, one thing I regret not playing one of those tournaments on Saturday. Like I played Legacy, which obviously was like it's probably better or something in the format, but it's a format I get to play a lot online, and but I don't get to play that many games of like other formats. So I feel like if I will go again to this tournament on Saturday, I will actually like to play like go there and play pre-modern and vintage. That's it. Just play like full anti-Anthony formats.
Yeah. Today.
All right, let's do a deal, Mengu. Next time we go to something like this, let's hope one of us can remind to each other like, hey, we're like maybe that's better.
Yeah, no. I felt the same. Like when I submitted this like Legacy 10 round event, I was like, I want to kind of like drop and play a modern side event with Mono Black that I brought, but I kind of kept on winning in the early rounds, so I couldn't really drop. But so yeah, no, for sure, I agree. I think that I agree. Let's do it. Let's play pre-modern and vintage next Eternal Weekend. All right. I think we're good to. I think we're good to end there. We'll be back next week. Actually, it's gonna be just. I guess we'll see next. We'll say next time who's gonna be there and who's not. Thank you everybody for listening, and patreon.com/Carnies if you want to support. At MTG Bandcard if you want to complain that he doesn't know the rules or that he's wrong about full color being bad in long tournament. We said that a lot this episode.
All right. Thanks everyone for listening.
Bye.
Bye.
Cheers.
Yes. Bye.